As gacha games have become more mainstream, the never-ending debate of free-to-play versus whales has been a reoccurring way to weaponize or downplay someone's success and failures. This sort of debate on the variation of a player's lifestyle is not unique at all to gacha games, but has been discussed among all genres of games that use in-game purchases. In something like an MMO, it might be seen as a requirement to spend money in order to progress and catch up to old players. One might want to skip the grind to make up for sort of fake lost time for not starting sooner. This even applies to free games where customization is allowed. Think of a game like Fortnite or Roblox where spending is optional, but free-to-play players look kind of default unless they spend money, and it's visible to all players. You can pretty easily tell if someone's free-to-play or if they spend money in a game, and that sort of mentality can really weaponize things and lead to some conflict. If you spend money in a game, it might be more obvious based on how you look or the gear that you have. However, you're going to be judged for spending real-life money for an intangible item. You could be called a whale, you could be called like a no-life, and you're often considered to be pay to win. I guess because you're buying success, and rather than, quote, earning it. In this video, I intend to break down the pros and cons of going free to play or whaling in a game, as well as give my opinion on why the debate is really pointless. If you want the short, lukewarm answer, spend whatever you can afford and don't make bad decisions for intangible things. I think the debate is pointless, but I've always found it interesting because of how people kind of, I guess, get offended over how another person plays. With that being said, if you want the long answer, please keep watching. I plan to really apply this topic more to gacha games as that's sort of the channel, but I do believe that a lot of points that are made can be applied to other games. First, I'd like to talk about the aspect of the quote grind in a video game. The idea of earning gear in a game has always been something that interested me because of the mental satisfaction that comes with acquiring an item. In a gacha game, it may be satisfying to earn a cool character or even win like a banner pity. Getting something can feel like you've earned it. Logging in every day to a gacha game, that's part of the grind. You're working towards getting a character. It's part of how things go for a free-to-play player. Spending money is not in the free-to-play code, I guess, so you can't do that. You have to log in, you have to grind and, quote, earn what it is that you, quote, deserve. There's no skipping, there's no cutting corners, you just have to grind, and you just have to keep pushing through. It doesn't matter how small the rewards are, everything counts, and you have to just 100% everything, I guess. Basically, the time you give in is the time you get out. If you want 60 gems and 1,000 more experience, you better log in, because that's going to allow you to progress faster in the game and get what you want. Every day can be taken as a resource, another chance to progress further into your account. Not logging in is like missing out on time. You can't progress. You only get a certain amount of stamina to use each day, making it a sort of invaluable resource similar to gems. Now, even if you used currency to refresh your stamina, there is still some sort of limit, which means stamina is valuable to both free-to-play players and whales. But then again, whales are going to be able to take advantage of this system by paying to refresh, thus allowing them to progress faster in a game compared to a free-to-play player. Now a quote whale would have the ability to skip daily logins and can get much more stamina, but even then, if you're spending that much money on something that is essentially free, that's also kind of ridiculous. However, there is more of, I guess, a cushion to how much they can play without feeling they're missing out. The problem that comes is at one point you're going to reach a point where nothing really matters. Stamina is just for leveling up characters that you don't really need, and gems are really useless because you kind of can do anything you want in that game. You can clear all content, no problem, it's just pretty easy. At this point, I feel like this is when the sort of debate is pretty silly. Not only are these single-player games, so it shouldn't matter in the first place, it doesn't matter what another person does. Sure, if it's for progressing in a gacha game, I can understand the pros and cons of not spending or spending, but once you reach that hard cap, I guess, it's really easy. The free-to-play code, or whatever it's called, doesn't matter anymore, and spending money is also kind of pointless. It just becomes like gambling. But also, it's so lame to have to 100% everything. in order to be a quote free-to-play. Now, I do play some games free-to-play. I know I talked kind of like, I guess, sarcastic towards them, but it doesn't really matter how someone plays. If you can't afford spending money on a game, or you just don't want to, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to drop some money in a game that you like, there's also no shame in that. The only detriment is if you feel like it's an endless grind, whether it is spending hundreds of dollars for a new character every patch, or if it's logging in every day to catch up, in quotations, heavy quotations there. What if there's a really cool skin that you really want and you just love how it looks? While I may think that, for example, $30 is a bit too much, there is novelty to having something that not everybody can obtain. If you'd be happier and you can comfortably afford a skin, then buy that skin. Don't think about the free-to-play code or whatever. And if you don't have time to spend grinding, it's worth to spend money to quote catch up as well, as long as it's spare money and isn't affecting anything else in your life. It might be obvious, but spending also can lead you down a very slippery slope. You're usually not aware of how much something costs in a gacha game because they change all the currency rates and it's just hard to do math. Or maybe we're too lazy to do math. I don't know. Gacha games are a genre that require you to gamble, or at least they really want you to gamble, so players are incentivized to spend money. However, things really do add up, especially if you're playing more than one game. Now, if we look at battle passes or monthly login packs, this can range from about $15 to $25 and help with resources and gems. If you're buying these sorts of things every patch, it's really going to add up, and if you're playing any of the 4 big gacha games, it's easy to be spending over $100 alone in battle passes and monthly logins per patch. That's also a lot. So does that mean it's really bad to spend money in a gacha game? No, not really, because part of the joy for many people is spending money and gambling. And if nobody were to spend money in these games would shut down and they wouldn't exist. With all of this in mind, there really isn't a right way to play, and that shouldn't even be a concept in the first place. But your living situation is unique to you, and your way of playing isn't really the right way. There isn't a wrong way to play either. The only exceptions are if you go way too deep on either side. That being, if you're spending so much money that you can't afford on a game, or if you're spending so much hours of your day and not really doing anything else just to play this game. If you have expendable money and would be happier spending the money needed to get a unit, that's not really a problem. It's also not a problem to play the game and grind and collect stuff if that's fun to you. I don't know, I just found it interesting seeing that there are people who will say you didn't earn something if you spent money. And there's also people who spend way too much time on these games. It's just really bizarre to me. These games are pretty time demanding. That's not a bad thing. They're free games, but they're also pretty financially demanding as well. And in some sense, doing too much of one of them, either spending or even overly playing to complete all the exploration, all of the chests, all the events, it's just really easy to lose track of what it is you're giving, that being money or time. I think the source of this sort of debate comes from a place of pride and wanting to feel superior to other people. Even outside of gacha games, there's always people who get upset at others for not enjoying something the same way that they do, for playing a game, quote, wrong, as if their individual experience doesn't matter. Now, I think that something similar is taking place with whether or not people spend money in a game. Don't even get me started on loyalty, wanting to support a company. I get it, I get the idea of supporting a company, but just spend for the right reasons. Don't spend because you're helping a company. Spend because you want to spend on something that you enjoy. Weirdly enough, I can see people thinking if you spend money in a game, you're bad and unskilled, which alone is really stupid to have in especially a gacha game where there isn't really skill in these games. I also think there could be some sort of jealousy at play when it comes to this sort of thing. If I spent $300 on a character and someone got them in less than $0, I would probably be pretty peeved. But also, if I were to spend 0 hours grinding for a character and someone else had to spend 20 hours straight to get a character, I would feel pretty good about spending money instead. But regardless, everyone's money is their own business, and it shouldn't matter whether or not another person has the ability to spend on a game. If someone doesn't spend or they choose to spend, they're not more wrong for doing that. There's definitely extremes, but in most cases, it really doesn't matter too much on how someone plays. I've always found the theme of pride to be interesting when it comes to playing video games, and that's really all I wanted to talk about for this. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.